Afternoon, everybody. I am just checking that everything's working. Yes, it is. Oh, except it's not given everybody permissions. I will update that when we get to the feedback stage later on. So everybody should have access to your own cameras and microphones, but for some reason it's not giving you access. But I can at least see everybody on screen. So we will make a start. It's just gone 2 o'clock. Welcome to I think it's the 4th or maybe the 5th Speed Compliance Tool user group meeting. So we hold these annually. It's an opportunity to hear about any updates, for us to discuss any features, and also to for all of you to hear from each other about how you're using the Speed Compliance Tool, which I think it's incredibly useful because it's probably, I imagine, different to how we use it internally. So just to start off with some introductions. So my name's Steve. I'm the marketing manager at Agilysys, but my involvement within Speed Compliance Tool is to really anticipate what it is that you would like to see from it, how you're using it, so that we can, make continual improvements and make sure that that you get the most value out of it as possible. So with us is Suzanne Coles. So Suzanne is your job title has just changed, hasn't it? It's you are now senior consultant.
Yeah, principal consultant. Yeah.
Principal consultant with us. And for at least for the moment, Suzanne has been overseeing the entire development process of version 3. Then we have Martin, who is our sales manager. I'm sure that he's probably spoken to every single one of you because he deals with a lot of the account management type questions and queries. So you're probably most likely to have had contact with him. We have Olivia, who is largely handles the customer service. So whenever you renew a subscription or need a new license, Olivia is the one that handles all of that. And then we've got Paul with us as well, who basically built the Speed Compliance Tool, so he knows it inside out. So any technical questions, as and when they come in, it's usually Paul is the one that can answer them. So the agenda for today is we're going to start out by looking at Speed Compliance Tool version 3, which we are currently in the process of rolling out. So a couple of customers have had this already. It includes a load of new features as well as the latest data update. And we're in the process of rolling these out. Suzanne will take us through that. Then we will have a chance to have a look at the speed limit updater tool. So I'm sure that some of you are probably familiar with this already. It's the tool that you use to go about updating the speed limits. So if they're updated within a local authority area, nobody outside of the local authority knows unless you tell them. So the company that puts together all of the speed limit data for the entire country, they have a tool that you use to let them know that you've updated speed limits, and that's how we find out when we put it into the Speed Compliance Tool as well. We'll have an opportunity for feedback, and I will make sure that I have got cameras and microphones turned on by then, so we can hear from you guys. And then we've got a couple of last-minute updates as well. And if anybody has any questions throughout, please feel free to just pop up your hand, or if you want to put it into the chat as well, we'll make sure that they are addressed. But just to begin off the session, am I still showing my screen? I am. We just have a couple of questions to ask. So we're using Mentimeter. If you've been with us before for any of these, you'll know how it works. You can either do it on your phone with the QR code there, or you can go to menti.com and type in the number that's at the very top of the screen, or there is a quick link which I'm just about to put into the chat now that will get you straight there. We've just got a couple of questions just so that we can understand more about our customers, because it's not always the case that the people who are using the tool are the ones that we are actually speaking to. So it might be that somebody comes along and buys it, but the people who are actually using the tool, we never get to talk to. So it's really useful for us to find out things about all of you. So first question is, which of these are you involved in as part of your role? It should be a multi-select, so please select as many as you would like. And then hopefully the screen will just update. Good. It's always reassuring to see. I'll just leave this up for a couple of, let's say 10 seconds. Okay, great. Quite a big mix in there. Oh, not as many involved in active travel as used to be the case. I think there's a fairly even split between all of the others. But okay, perhaps a change in active travel. Not really necessarily linked to the speed compliance tool. Lovely. Next question is, on average, how often do you use the speed compliance tool? More than once per week, every 2 weeks, once a month, once a quarter, or if you haven't used the tool yet. I don't think do we have anybody with us who hasn't yet got the tool? I know that we did last time. I'm just looking to Martin. No, okay. Oh, great. Right. Well, that's lots of use so far. So most of you have said more than once per week, and that's really great to see. Thrilled at that even. Great. And which of these do you consider to be the most important features of the speed compliance tool? Now, all these features are included in the latest updates, as well as extras. But like I said, it's my job to figure out what it is that anticipate what it is that that everybody likes. Great. Okay. Only one person did say the speed performance indicator, though. That's quite interesting. And finally, just on the user support. Now, I will do a refresh on what support we do have available, just to remind everybody. But this is a ranking, so please put in order of preference how you would like to receive user support. And this one I would bet money on is similar to what we have seen before. I'll just leave that up for a couple more seconds. Okay, great. I will leave that slide up in the background. So anybody that is still completing it can do. But I will stop sharing my screen. And this is where I hand over to Suzanne to tell us about the updates coming in version 3.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Afternoon, everyone. I will launch straight into a sharing of my screen and let you see the new version 3. Much of which will look similar, hopefully, to the existing versions that you guys are using, but with a few subtle changes. So as you can see across the top, we've still got all the filters that we had previously. We have added in a trunk road filter. So those of you that are interested in speeds on your local roads, then you can now filter those out from trunk roads. One of the biggest changes you can see is obviously we've split the screen between the map and the speed data. So hopefully this will help just to see the correlation and exactly identify locations where speeds are perhaps higher on using the map, and immediately be able to see what those speeds actually are rather than having to switch between tabs. Just a reminder, if anyone does still want that full screen, then you can just click on that expand button at the top of the any of the windows, the map or the table format, and you'll be able to see it full screen. The functionality around the map is all exactly the same, with the zooming in, zooming out, your selection tools here in the top left, and you've still got the search function One thing that we did add to version 2 that you may not have twigged is the ability to search by grid reference. So traditionally we had searching just by sort of name or place name or address, which is just using the first geocoding service here. But this BNG locator, all that means it's just using another geolocator functionality to be able to put in a grid reference. So anyone perhaps trying to see the speeds at location of a known collision, then you should now be able to home straight into that position on the map. As I say, in terms of the functionality, then bookmarks still the same and the base maps. What you'll see with the layers is that we've now got lots more. And that's one of the main changes, which hopefully you've clocked in the various correspondence, the emails and things that we've sent out. We've now got 14 different time periods across the 7-day week. We've got Monday to Friday, we've now got 8 time periods. So you can see splitting out those sort of morning peaks into a couple of different time periods. We've now got the midday off-peak period is now split into 2. And then we've still got the evening peak and PM peak and evenings and overnight. In addition to then the Monday to Friday, then you've also got similar time periods for the weekends, slightly fewer. But more weekend time periods than you have had in the past. And you can toggle these on and off in exactly the same way. We've also added in the difference all day 85th. So you can see that. And yeah, when I toggle that on, as I say, still looks exactly the same, still using that green to red coding to identify levels of compliance. Just more time periods in which to analyze. So hopefully you guys will find that useful. What you'll also see with the map and having the table next to it, the table will react to anything that's on the map. So if we just search for 40-mile-an-hour limits, then you can see the numbers are all changing on the right-hand side relative to exactly what you're seeing in the map. What we do have is we have one of the requests from users was about understanding the locations across the network where compliance was the worst. So we've presented this for you in 2 different formats. We've got a table of 50 entries of the least compliant road sections. And these are ordered by the speed difference between the speed limit and the all-day average speed. Again, this table here is interactive. So if I were to click on one of the locations on the map, it will zoom into that location so you can see exactly where it is. And likewise, click on it again to return to the default view. Equally, these filters. So if I just search for A roads, then the table will update to show you the 50 least compliant A road sections across your region. As I said, we've presented this information in 2 different formats, the table and secondly, for those that like a more visual appearance, then as a graph. And this presents exactly the same functionality in terms of the interaction between the graph and the map. So if I click on one of the bars, then it will take me to that location on the map. And equally, just click on the same bar again to return to your previous view. I think this might particularly be useful for people who use the speed difference filters on the left-hand side. I've shown you previously how to identify sites where there is the greatest non-compliance. So basically filtering down this map to remove any of the green and just show those red locations. And often we were asked, well, how can I tell then which is the worst of these red locations? And so now the table and the graph will be able to, through using those, you'll be able to identify those worst locations. Yeah, so those are changes there on the dashboard. I'll just reset these filters a second. If you zoom into the map, and see if I can find a click on a section, we have reduced down the amount of content in the pop-ups. Again, we're getting feedback from users that weren't necessarily using those as a source of information. Obviously kept the section details and provided you with those high-level speeds. And again, these will change depending on what layer you're looking at in the map. But what the pop-up now offers you is access to our new reporting functionality. So if you click where it says he, this is using another Esri module. So it does take you through this extra step, I'm afraid, just to ask permission. But once you're signed in, just click allow and it will still take you straight through to this report that we have created. It's a 5-page report, but it is designed that you can use any one of the pages individually or collectively. So again, we've got just a summary of the location selected and our traditional map, and then some basic details of the speeds on that section just at the bottom. So if you're looking for sort of immediate information just to be able to send out quickly, maybe a counsellor has made an inquiry or a colleague just wants to know what average speeds are on a given section, then you can generate this report and share that quite quickly with them. For those that might be wanting a little bit more information, and if you move to page 2 and 3, you can find tables showing the full average and 85th percentile speeds for every one of the new time periods, collectively, combined and bidirectional. And page 2 is Monday to Friday, and page 3 is the weekends. At the bottom of each of these tables, you'll see there's a little cloud icon, and if you click on that, you'll be able to export the table to a CSV. So if anyone wants to do any analysis on the data or use it in another way, present it a bit differently, then you can do. You will need to export each table individually, I'm afraid, but then once within Excel, you'll be able to move them around so that you've got all the data in one place. And again, a bit like the table in the main dashboard, we've presented that same information to you in graph format as well. So you can see the weekday average and 85th percentile speed profiles on page 4, and on page 5, same for the weekend. So these reports can also now be either saved as a PDF or you can print them out. So hopefully that will give you much better functionality and answer lots of the calls for improvement that we were getting. It's a step up from the taking the screen grab of the individual section summary tab that we had in version 2. Yeah, so hopefully you'll look forward to be able to use that. Just a reminder, if you do select multiple sections of a route, then again, you'll still be able to see the speeds averaged across those sections here on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, at the moment, then we can't generate a report for multiple sections, but that is something that we're still hoping to do in the future. We just need to wait for Esri, the platform provider, to make some further improvements in the back end. But again, I know it's something that has been raised with them, and we continue to raise it with them on your behalf. So hopefully they will action that, and as soon as they do, then we'll be able to transpose that into functionality for you guys as users. A reminder, just in the top right, then you can access new updated user guide and FAQs. So if you've got any using it and you're not quite sure what the information is showing, or just need a quick recap on how to do something, then yeah, do drop into that user guide, have a quick look. And if we have omitted it, then yeah, drop us an email and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. On the least compliant sites data, then one thing you might have noticed just at the top here is cautionary words here just about interpreting results. And this is predominantly around the shorter sections of road network that you might find in your network. Obviously, GPS is wonderful and operates extremely quickly, but I'm sure you can appreciate if you've got a 40-mile-an-hour section of road and for whatever reason, Ordnance Survey have split the network in such a way that an individual segment is only 10-20 meters long, then it doesn't take very long at all for a vehicle to travel that 10 or 20 meter section at 40 miles an hour. And so in those instances, the accuracy of any GPS generated data will be lower than across longer sections. What we have done is we have set the default minimum road length to try and take away some of those erroneous figures for you, just to avoid any complication. But if you do want to see them, then of course you can just reset that back to 0. We didn't want to filter out too many by taking that value up higher. So hence just a cautionary word there. If you do come across any really short sections, as well as the increase in time periods, then Ordnance Survey have made some adjustments to the network, which has meant that there are a few more shorter sections in the master map highways base layer. So yeah, just be aware of that. But again, any questions, then by all means get in touch with us and we'll do our best to answer those for you. Steve, are there any questions that have cropped up?
So there's just one question. I'm going to open it up to the floor if anybody has questions about version 3. So I said at the beginning that we are currently rolling this out at the moment. So as you can see, Merseyside, this is Merseyside's actual version. We are rolling them out at the moment. It is taking some time, and unfortunately, we've had a number of delays with the technology in the background. We have been working on it. We've been working incredibly hard on it. So they will be arriving soon. I can't give a specific date of when that will be, but we will be in touch with everybody individually as and when you can expect yours on the way. I know that we have 3 in the production line at the moment, which are going through QA. We just want to make sure that we do get this absolutely right when we hand it over to you, so that it doesn't cause any confusion. Suzanne also mentioned, I know that we have mentioned before in a couple of the news updates, that the data in the background has changed, which was why we started off this process. So the data supplier, the connected vehicle data supplier, changed the those time boundaries from when they were looking at data. It's now arrived at 14, when I think we only had 7 before, 6 or 7, and they weren't even sort of, that 7 wasn't doubled. It was sort of they changed where the time boundaries were. So we've kind of had to figure out how to display that in a way that wasn't completely overwhelming by having 14 different time frames available. But yes, any comments, any questions about version 3? You should all have access to your cameras and your microphones now. So if you want to put your hand up, would welcome any comments. John.
Yes, John.
Hi guys, thanks very much. John from North Ayrshire Council here. So first of all, I think it looks really good. I had a whole bunch of questions which I've just been deleting as you've been going, because you're doing, you're introducing the stuff that I was going to ask. One thing I don't know if I missed it. I know you'd said that you couldn't yet do multiple section with the new report format, but is the system still giving you the multiple section? So if you highlight multiple sections, is that table still showing you the averages and all that for the multiple sections?
Yeah, absolutely, John.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't taken away that functionality. So yeah, if I selected multiple sections on the route, then you'll see at the top here how many sections that you've selected, and the data below that will relate to those selected sections.
Right, okay, no worries, that's great. I think the new report looks really good because, like you say, I've been screenshotting and trying to work out the best way to send data to people. That was the other question I was going to ask, was about sending out data. I don't think I was involved in the initial training or meetings when North Ayrshire got the system, but the guy who was, I don't know if Mark's on this meeting actually. Don't think he is, but he said to me something like he was told that you were very, very sort of like cautious about us giving out the data, and kind of the way he put it to me was never tell a councillor or anyone what the actual speed data was, because you guys don't like us to tell them that information. Just tell them it's within the speed limit, or we're happy that it's below and within a safe speed. But from your point of view, it sounds like from what you were saying earlier, Suzanne, that you are okay with us sending that, telling people the actual specific speeds.
Yeah, so if you want to share then the front page of the new report with someone, then obviously that is going to show you there what the average speeds are. What we have added on at the bottom of every page is just this short bit of text here about what the data source is, because again, that was something that people just struggled to perhaps put into words. If they were sharing data with councillors who aren't perhaps familiar with Speed Compliance Tool, haven't been on a call with any of us to hear us sort of explain the source of the data, then hopefully this short paragraph just helps give them that background. Obviously, more information is available through the FAQs. But yeah, this addresses some of the questions we've previously had about having to include some sort of statement around copyright and things if you were taking a screen grab and popping it into an email. So yeah, so hopefully we've covered off a few different things in creating this report.
No worries, that's great. And I was just also going to ask, I think in terms of the most up-to-date snapshot, am I right in saying that at the minute it's something like 2022, 23 or 21, 22, and then are you going to be getting a new period soon as well?
So yeah, so that was one of the changes that Ordnance Survey made. We used to receive data for financial years. So version 2 runs from April 2022 to March 2023. And you can see here at the top, if you can read the small text, then it is now running from January 2023 to December 2023.
Right, okay.
Ordnance Survey release new data every 6 months. So the rollout of version 3 will incorporate data that was released by Ordnance Survey the 1st of July. So from then 1st of January, they would be releasing the next set, and that would trigger our internal processes for updating tools.
Right. Okay, no worries. And see that little bit you've got on the screen here that shows you the period. I never noticed that before. I take it that appears on version 2 as well. Right, brilliant. Yeah. That's excellent. I think that's me.
And one other thing just to add is that for those of you, I don't know if anyone from Merseyside's here on the call, but for those of you who have had Speed Compliance Tool for a while, then with the rollout of version 3, we're not going to be taking away your version 2. So the link that you've got to version 2 will still work. So if you've got save that as a favorite, then make sure you distinguish the new link when it comes to version 3. That's something different. If you rename your bookmarks or your favorites, you will still have access to version 2. So that will give you some of that historic data for comparative purposes. Just be aware if there have been any changes to the road geometry that Ordnance Survey have then captured, then you might not get an exact match between road segments from version 2 and road segments in version 3, but hopefully you'll be able to get a sufficient of a picture for the comparative purposes that you might need.
Great, thanks both. You've just reminded me of another update as well. Is that when you do receive version 3, there will be more of a standardized link that you'll get as well, so you'll be able to quickly differentiate between version 2, version 3, because version 3 will have an agilysys.co.uk link that it'll redirect you to the Esri one, but it'll be one that you can remember. Rather than the one that you can see on the screen at the moment, which is what you'll all have for version 2 at the moment, will be a gobbledygook one. But version 3 should have a much easier to remember link that you'll be able to share with others. Stephen Hughes, hello.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, first of all, the version 3, yeah, it looks, well, a lot better than what we had on version 2, which I always thought was quite good anyway. I did put my question in the chat, but just in case, it's about you mentioned the Ordnance Survey coordinates, map core coordinates. Is what 3 words? Because that now seems to be taking on a life of its own everywhere. Is that something we should be looked at in the future, so that you can identify a road upon the what 3 words? Because that's easier to get hold of sometimes when you stood there than the actual coordinates.
Yeah, that is something that has been raised with us, Stephen. Thank you. What 3 words is obviously now a paid for service. I mean, when it started off, it was free, but now it is paid for. So I think at the moment it's we haven't got any immediate plans to integrate it into the tool. I think it's a case of understanding just the volume of sort of requests that or how much use it might generate, and yeah, and considering that for future versions, I think. But yeah, it is on our radar.
Okay, thank you very much.
To give you a peek behind the curtain about how we do it is anybody that raises any sort of requests for future features, updates, anything like that, we do record all of them. So we actually have a sort of a project planner board in the background that we keep for each of our tools. Any requests that are made are on there, and then we have periodic reviews of all the requests. So essentially, if a lot of people are requesting the same thing, then we put that as a higher priority for when we're looking at making updates. The report builder being the obvious one there. People have been requesting that for quite some time. So if a lot of people do want to have what 3 words included, then it would be something that we would look at to do in a future update. But as Suzanne said, at the moment we don't have any planned updates at the moment. What with the rollout of version 3.
Thank you for that.
Watch this space.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions, comments on version 3, or shall we move on to Suzanne? Are you able to show us through the speed limit updater?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the frequently asked questions, there's a section there about how speed limit data gets updated. And there's reference to our sister company, Insight Warehouse, who collate the speed limit map for the UK. And the data that they capture in their speed limit map gets fed to Ordnance Survey, and that gets then combined with the data received from Basemap, the connected vehicle suppliers, and all lands with us, all sort of together for us to decipher and visualize for you guys on the maps. And there is access details in the frequently asked questions for you to request access to the speed limit updater tool, which is the means by which Insight Warehouse can capture any changes or corrections needed to the national speed limit map. So this is the speed limit updater tool. You do need to register to have access, but that's a very quick, easy process. There's an email address in the FAQs. Drop Insight Warehouse a line, and they'll set you up as a new user. And you won't zoom out too far because you lose all the speed limits. But yeah, national map, and we can quickly navigate to any sort of local authority across the country. So given that I've been looking at Merseyside, then I will just zoom into Liverpool. So we can start to see speed limits on the more strategic routes. And the legend just up here in the top right is giving you the explaining what all the different colours mean. And as we zoom in, then we start to see more of the speed limits on the smaller routes. So if you come across a route where speed limit is wrong, or if you are within a traffic management team, a local authority, and you're working on traffic regulation orders and you've got an update, then you can come on here, and it is very simple. I don't use this very frequently, probably for obvious reasons, and I'm not involved in changing speed limits on anywhere, and I'm not an end user of a speed compliance tool in a region that I'm very familiar with the speed limits. So forgive me if I look a little bit clunky, but I'll do my best on this demonstration. So you've got a range of options. You can draw a sort of sausage around a route that of a speed limit that needs changing, or you can draw just a polygon. So we'll just draw a line along there, double click, and that has appeared. And then if I click on that section, so it's showing, as the legend suggests, that this is a 30-mile-an-hour route. I want to change it down to a 15. I mean, I don't think it's a public road. It looks like it's running through a park. So we'll just, and then I can select, and then it brings up another window just for you to record the reason for the change. So if I was a local authority and we've made a traffic order, I put in my name to say it was provided by the information's been provided from me, date of operation there, and I just click submit. And then that information wings its way through to the team at Insight Warehouse. Obviously, they won't take every bit of information just as a given. They will then verify that change with the local highway authority. So you might find that you get an inquiry closing that full circle just to say, did you do this, and is this absolutely correct? Yeah, it's very simple then to change that speed limit. I obviously won't click submit in this instance. Yeah, it really is just as simple as that, guys. So yes, if you do want to register to have access to the speed limit updater tool, then look for the email address in the FAQs document, drop them a line, they'll set you up with access, yeah, and then you can go from there. What we have heard is that some highway authorities, whenever they are distributing the traffic regulation order has made notice, which has to go out to statutory consultees, they will add Insight Warehouse to that email distribution list, so that then the notices go straight to them, which when I thought that was a really good idea. So yeah, if anyone is working for a local authority on the call, then if you're in that team, then yeah, maybe make the suggestion or pass that on to colleagues, and that helps just to improve the accuracy of that speed limit data that then is used by not only us in the speed compliance tool, but obviously lots of other people who access that speed limit map for different purposes. So yeah, I said it would be brief, but that is the very quick demo of the speed limit updater tool. Has anyone got any questions on that?
Let's go to Ross, and then Stephen, I will come to your question.
Hi, sorry. Two things. That email to send updates to.
Yeah.
Can you ping that in the chat? Because I've got about 500 kilometers of road that's changing very shortly, so it'll be a lot easier to send that in one go.
Yeah, absolutely, Ross.
And secondly, when you're on, is there any way to split the road sections? Because I've currently got the problem where I've got limits that stop in the middle of the road sections that are already on that map, and there's no way of even making note that you can't.
So because the speed compliance tool is using the Ordnance Survey master map highways as its base, then we are restricted to the segments that Ordnance Survey determine. Historically, those tended to go junction to junction, but you'll probably notice some changes in the new version where they have split the network up into greater sections. And so some of those might now change at a speed limit interchange, or they might not. But we don't have any control, I'm afraid, over where the sections stop and start. It is, I realise that it is an issue for you as users when you're looking at speeds that relate to whatever the speed limit on the majority of a section is, when there might be a very short section of it that's actually lower, or a different speed limit at least. But yeah, we are bound, I'm afraid, by the Ordnance Survey and how they separate the network up.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Ross. And question from Stephen in the chat as well, which is about how often is the speed limit data updated within Speed Compliance Tool, which I believe it's every quarter. Is that still the case?
So I think it's linked with the Ordnance Survey updates. So so it would be every 6 months.
Every 6 months, okay. Oh, yeah. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, the actual question was more along the lines of, once you've put it on the speed limit updated, which I tend to use, and as you say, it is a bit clunky at times, then how long does it take for that bit of that change to then appear on this system? And I think you've actually answered that question anyway.
Yeah, so it is 6 months for it to appear within Speed Compliance Tool. I think Insight Warehouse do provide updates to the speed limit map to the users of that national map on a quarterly basis. But then, as I say, Ordnance Survey then issue the new data with the average speed data, etc., now 6 monthly. So yeah, so that's how frequently you'd see the change then within the Speed Compliance Tool.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further questions on the speed limit updater tool? We'll answer as best as we can. No, okay, right. So we move on to this is the moment where I ask the question of how is everybody using the tool? Would really like to hear what it is that you're using the tool for, and I'm sure you would probably like to hear from other people who are actually using the tool as well, what they're using it for, and share any tips or anything at all. Would anybody like to volunteer? Please feel free to just speak up.
Well, I'll go first, and if nobody else is going to jump in, because
Lovely.
I seem to be doing a lot of talking. Sorry about that, guys, but somebody has to. Right, I'm traffic management for the Derbyshire Police. I tend to use this mainly for looking at our high-risk roads, for directing the officers to go and do their speed enforcement, and also where the best place to patrol. And that's what we're finding with this, is that we've been able to narrow down, between myself and my member of staff who's on the call as well, we've actually narrowed down all our roads that we had regular speed checks done now, and we can actually use this to actually say, is it actually worth going there? Because members of the public have a habit of saying people doing 110 mile an hour past my house. Well, when you actually go there, they ain't. But in the past, we've actually physically go there. Now we're looking at it and saying, yeah, you're not. One or two people might just have a loud car. So that's what we're using it for. A lot of that. Also, when we've had serious life-changing or fatal collisions, I've been using this with the collision investigation unit to actually establish whether there's actually an issue with the road there. But also local authority. Our local authority now is actually buying into this, and they bought a shed load of licenses which are just up and running. So, but they've been tapping into me to actually find out what's going on in the network. Now they're realising that they could actually do it quicker if they just have the damn thing themselves, which they are, which is great. So yeah, so that the reporting tool which you put on the or the report generator on version 3 is going to be an absolute godsend for a lot of that. Because I say I use it a lot. I'd say daily. It's on and it's being used and things are happening with it. But that's from the enforcement policing side of it. I'm sure other people have other ways of using it.
Fantastic, thank you. I think am I right in saying that actually you, Derbyshire, joined us about this time last year when we had this user group?
Just before, I think it was. I've had it maybe about. No, yeah, it would be a year because that's how long they actually bought it for us, and then they wanted us to evaluate it because it's paid for by our local road safety partnership. They wanted us to evaluate it, which we did. Said it's absolutely. I don't know why you haven't got it, and now they're buying into it and they're taking it on. So that's what's happened there. But we've actually led the way for them, to be fair. And yes, it has been an invaluable piece of kit.
Fantastic. I mean, can't get better feedback than that. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was
No problem.
when I asked Martin earlier about whether we had anybody joining us that hadn't quite got the speed compliance tool yet. It was Derbyshire that I was thinking of. Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else like to share any tips or feedback? Any questions? Let's give it an awkward moment. Or how about so the question that I would like to ask is if anybody sees any future trends or changes in speed enforcement that it might be important for us to consider in the future. I mean, that might be quite a wide question, but yeah, speed enforcement is something that we are a little bit more detached from because we're not on the ground. So if you can think of any upcoming changes in speed enforcement, any trends that we should be aware of or thinking about, especially with the speed compliance tool, then yeah, let's have a chat about that. If there are any questions that anybody has, we do have the support email address. So if anybody comes up with any questions, any feedback at any point, please just contact the support email address and one of us will get back to you. I'm going to take a brief moment just to remind about the support that we do have on offer. So we do have the user guide and the frequently asked questions. Now they are quickly accessed from within the speed compliance tool itself. So Suzanne showed you it was at the top right hand corner. Drop down menu with access to the user guide. Now that will obviously be different between version 2 and version 3, but if you want to view the one that the tool is that you want to view the user guide for the tool that you're using, it's best to access it from there. Everybody else will have also received a welcome pack at the point of signing up. So every year when you're asked to accept the terms and conditions of the license, it should email you a welcome pack, which gives you links to all of the resources available. And also to mention our YouTube channel, we will be updating all of the videos for version 3. So it's they're very, very short how-to videos. If anybody needs any help with that, that's all available. And like I said, if there are any questions, you can feel free to just contact us directly. I will put the email address into the chat. Final notification as well about a future update. So we are being forced to bring in two-factor authentication. This will come into effect as of the 1st of January. So you will start being notified that you need to set up two-factor authentication for all of your logins. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to appear or what is going to happen yet. We're waiting for more information. But from the 1st of January, all users will need to use two-factor authentication to log in to the speed compliance tool. Right, and with that, I'm just going to hand over to Martin for the last couple of minutes just to run us through a tool that's very, very similar to Speed Compliance Tool, but looking at collisions. I do know that a couple of people on the call do use CrashMap, or are certainly aware of CrashMap. But Martin, if I hand over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon, and thank you for sticking with us. Let me just try and share my screen. Hopefully, you can see another dashboard. Show of hands, thumbs, nods, just to make sure that you can see this dashboard, please. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Steve. Brilliant. Joanne, thank you very much. So some of you may or may not know CrashMap. This is the CrashMap Pro dashboard. I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes just going through this very, very briefly. I don't want it to be dashboard overload for you. But Suzanne mentioned this briefly earlier, that in some cases, what people are looking for is they are looking at causation and causality between speed and collisions. Again, camera's here, dashboard's here. So if I'm looking away, I'm not ignoring you. Really just wanted to run you through this because the two sit side by side. They're pretty much both sides of the same coin. Speed on one side, collision data on another. Now, other providers are available, and we do know that some of our clients use our competitors' products, and we don't cast aspersions on them, but this is ours. And as you can see here, nice dashboard. And again, we've built this with the user in mind. So very much from left to right, top to bottom, this is the home tab. We've got a user guide built in, an FAQs page, intro video 1 and video 2. I'm not going to click on them because if I do, Richard starts talking and I don't want to interrupt him. We've also got a custom reports video and a template as well. What I wanted to do was just draw your attention to the right hand side just to say, look, this is built on Stats 19 data, not insurance telematics data or black box data. So if we go to our legend, what we are looking at here is crashes color coded by severity, yellow being slight, red being serious and black being fatal. We also do a lot of work for RSF, so we have color coded our roads to help with this as well. So we'll find that if someone is using the Speed Compliance Tool, they will also be using this literally screen by screen, side by side to say, look, there's potentially an incident in Banbury. I've used us because this is where we are. If you've ever heard the nursery rhyme, Ride a Cock Horse to Banbury Cross, the cross is here and the white horse is just here with the lady on top of it. And our office is just here. But what we are looking at here is data from January 2013 to December 2022. That's purely based on collisions and information that was recorded at scene. What I can do if I need to is if I know the area, I can start clicking on and having a look at an accident ID that will tell me around carriageway hazards, severity, officer attending, time and date, number of vehicles, number of casualties. So anything related at all to Stats 19, you will find in this pane. What I can also start to do, if I click, is I can have a look at the attribute table, which is also here as well. Again, this is just a very brief overview because I don't want this to be dashboard overload. But if I also want to search a specific location or radius, I can tap in a postcode here. Let me just get rid of this. If I tap in OX16, and then I can do a radial search of that location, which would then, if I get rid of this, give me a nice big section of crash data or collision data. Mark Hill, I think you have asked about this, so that might be worth me trying to catch up with you. I know I've left you a couple of voicemail messages and sent an email as well. But as I say, what I didn't want to do was overload you with dashboards this afternoon. This was just to give you a snapshot of what CrashMap looks like. And if there is anybody else that wants any further questions or ask me further questions about this or the Speed Compliance Tool, you've got me here as well, because I think most of you may have had an email from me or spoken to me previously. Steve.
Right. If there are any other questions, please feel free to get in touch with the support address. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us for the user group. And yes, you will hear from one of us very soon, I'm sure. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.